Let's take a look now at a new Monmouth University poll on the email issue. 38% say Hillary Clinton has something to hide. But look at the breakdown by party affiliation. You have 68% of Republicans and 41% of independents, but only 8% of Democrats who think there is something to hide. That is a considerable difference. The emails are connected to the investigation into Benghazi. Earlier, I spoke with Congressman Trey Gowdy. He's the chairman of the House Select Committee on Benghazi. Chairman Gowdy, I want to get your reaction to the decision by the former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton to turn over her private email server to the Justice Department. What do you think about this?
About damn time was my initial reaction. We asked her in March to turn that server over to a neutral, detached, independent arbiter like the Inspector General. I can't help but smile at the notion that somebody is voluntarily turning something over to the FBI. They generally don't ask. They generally tell you to do so, and I doubt very seriously that they ask her to turn her server over. If they have jurisdiction, they don't need to ask. They just go get it.
Hillary Clinton this week certified under penalty of perjury that she has turned over all of the emails related to her time at the State Department. Do you take her at that word?
Well, I read that statement, and it's easier to read Egyptian hieroglyphics than it is to parse the words that her lawyer wrote in that statement. Whenever you see the phrase "on information and belief," that should be a blinking red light for you to be suspicious of it. So
explain, what do you mean? But when it says that on information and belief, she believes this to be true, or this is true. So explain Brianna, to me, with a legal perspective here, explain to me your concerns about that.
I'll be happy to. Did she go through the emails? Of the 60,000 emails, did she go through each one of them and separate them personal versus public record? No, her attorney did it. Her attorney, who has a fiduciary and ethical obligation to her, not to the taxpayer, not to the public, but to her. So how in the world can she aver that the public record is complete when she herself did not go through and look at each one of those emails? We found 15 that she did not turn over to the State Department. So we know for a fact that that statement is not correct. Remember the 15, the 9 in whole and the 6 in part that Cindy Blumenthal gave to us that the State Department never had? Where were those? How did her lawyer miss those 15? So no, I don't believe the statement. But the statement wasn't to me. It was to a federal judge, and I'll let him or her handle that.
We've seen certainly some of the requests go from Benghazi. There seems to be a concern now about Libya really in general, beginning with the invasion by the U.S. and its allies. Is the committee expanding its purpose to include Clinton's email practices, or just as they pertain to these other issues that you're interested in?
Just as it pertains to making sure that the public record is complete with respect to Libya and Benghazi. I have no jurisdiction over Bolivia or Paraguay or what used to be Somalia. I'm not interested in bridesmaids' dresses or yoga routines. None of that is, first of all, not my business. Second of all, it's not my jurisdiction. But I am entitled to every document that relates to Libya and Benghazi and what our policy was in Libya, and whether anti-Western sentiment contributed to the attack or whether it was a spontaneous reaction to a video, as we were told at one point. I'm entitled to all of those records. And how in the world we can be assured that the public record is complete given this email arrangement that she had with herself, as curious as it was, that's going to be the challenge.
I asked you that because a lot of Democrats who support Hillary Clinton look at the committee and they say there's been mission creep on the goal of your committee. What do you say to that?
I would say they need look no further than their own putative 2016 candidate. I didn't advise her to have her own server. I didn't advise her to rely on Sidney Blumenthal as her primary advisor on Libya. I didn't advise her to keep her public records for 20 months after she separated from service and not turn them over to the Department of State. I didn't advise her to say the record is complete and then we find 15 emails where they weren't. And God knows I didn't advise her to say there's no classified information on the server when we know now that there was classified information on the server. So I get that they're frustrated. I get that they're disappointed that her that her polling numbers are almost as low as Congress's, but they need to look no further than her. They don't need to blame the Republicans in the House. We're doing what we were supposed to do. And Brianna, I hasten to add, all those other committees that looked in Benghazi, not a single damn one of them figured out that she had this email arrangement with herself. So those investigations must not have been as thorough as we were led to believe.
Are you casting doubt on the findings then? Those other committees that found really no issue with Benghazi or no certainly a cover-up?
Give me a finding. Well, those are two separate things. Give me a finding that you think a previous committee found, and then tell me whether or not they talked to every eyewitness who would have access to information, because I can tell you they didn't. We have talked to 34 witnesses who have firsthand knowledge that no other committee talked to. So how in the world could the previous investigations be complete when you're not talking to eyewitnesses, you're not accessing the documents, and you haven't even bothered to talk to the Secretary of State who was in charge at the time? How that is a complete, thorough investigation into Benghazi, it would be laughed out of court, and it ought to be laughed out of the court of public opinion.
But you're raising questions about Republican findings too, right?
So that just proves how bipartisan I am, Brianna. Yes, Republicans can run slipshod investigations just like anyone else can.